All right. So today is the 7th day of Adar 1, which is 5779. This is the Yortzeit of Moshe Rabbeinu. He passed away on a regular Adar, so we observe it both on Adar 1 and on Adar 2. So there you go. So, so we're at Shmuel I. We are in the second chapter, chapter 2, and verse 15. Just to summarize where we are. So Shmuel was born. Shmuel was born and brought to the Mishkan, which was in Shiloh. He was in Mishkan in Shiloh, was brought there to service God. And he grew up under the wings of Eli, the priest, the high priest Eli, who was also the judge at the time. And he was really, from young age, became something special. Now, the whole book of Shmuel is written for a purpose. It's not just a novel. It's not, wasn't.
Is there part of Tanakh that's not written for a purpose?
Wasn't looking for Pulitzer Prize, right? Okay. So he wrote it for a purpose. What was the purpose that he wrote it for? He wrote it in order to teach us what leadership is, how to choose our leaders, how to serve God ourselves in the land of Israel. He wrote the whole book of Shoftim, of Judges, as a introduction, basically, to serve as a connector between the book of Yoshua and the book of Shmuel, again, to teach us how not to work idolatry. And he was trying to teach us something that we all know now very simply, that if you try to make the same mistake again and again and again, don't expect different results. So if you do idolatry, you're going to get bitten, bang on the head, and etc. So that was the book of Shoftim. The book of Shmuel is to teach us how to choose the leaders, how to serve the people. Now, it starts with, the book of Shoftim, he wasn't alive while the book of Shoftim was going on, right? He was born just here. So it's also a very vivid description of the events. But here in the book of Shmuel, it's much more because he lived it. This is first person account. I saw it. Right? So the description, there are amazing descriptions in the book of Shoftim as well, but when we read the book of Shmuel here in the beginning, let's look at it through his eyes, through the eyes of Shmuel, who lived it, who knew the personalities. Now, Eli had two sons. Eli, the Kohen, has two sons, Chofni and Pinchas. And they were not exactly outstanding servants of God. They, they were kids, and they were acting not that.
Were they mamish young men? Such
young
men?
They started as young men, obviously, right. But they started as young men doing stupid things, and as they grew up, they continued to do that. So the end result was that instead of the kids taking over the father function, like Aaron's kids, Pinchas, Elazar, they took over. They were not. They didn't merit to do that, and they did so much damage. That caused the abandonment of Mishkan Shiloh. That caused the destruction of Mishkan Shiloh. Mishkan Shiloh was not physically destroyed, the walls didn't come down, but it stopped to serve as the place to be, the place of God. The ark was stolen. The ark was taken captive during the war, which we will learn about in a few months. But the root of that problem was here, in what's happening in our chapter. And what was happening in our chapter, the description until now, is that people did not, unfortunately, have great respect for the Kohanim. That's sort of the intro to it. The people did not have great respect for the Kohanim. Why? On the one hand, they
Before
were
Pinchas.
before Chofni or Pinchas, before at the time of in the past 340 years, 350 since we came to the land of Israel and we became an agricultural society, right? The Kohanim had two ways of sustaining themselves. They were not lawyers, they were not doctors. All right? How the Kohen sustain themselves? They got donations. They got gifts. And they got primarily two types of gifts. They got gifts that are agricultural gifts from the wheat and from the fruit of the trees. And they also got gifts from Bet HaMikdash, live ones. They got Bechor, they got every tenth animal. But again, that's when you have a herd.
But also Truma went to them.
Right, but when you have a herd of cows, you don't have 200 cows being born. You have one a year, twice, 2, 3, 10 a year. Not many. When you have a field, you have a lot of every year you have few tons of produce. And you have they got certain korbanot, they got certain pieces of that korban, of that sacrifice, so they can sustain themselves. Now, how do they receive the korbanot? How do they receive the gifts? When they were in the temple in Bet HaMikdash, people came to Bet HaMikdash. They came trembling because they're coming to see God. And they're coming to a holy place. The Kohen Gadol and the Kohanim in general were the holy people of the place. They were running the show, and they were treated in a very respectful fashion. But when they went back home, when the Jew went back home, the regular Israelite, went back home and worked his field, when was his interaction with the shofet, with the Kohen? The Kohen sometimes would be the teacher in the town, okay, but the main interaction was when the Kohen would come to his field like a poor schnorrer to pick up the gifts. That was the main interaction of the Jews with the Kohanim at the time, business-wise, And because the Kohanim they're not going to didn't go out and buy fruit usually, because they didn't have money. They didn't earn money, typically,
I thought it was brought up to Yerushalayim.
So some of them,
Yerushalayim, right?
yeah, some of the
would bring it to Shiloh.
Yeah, but we're getting to Shiloh. But the law is some of the laws of which we learn in a little bit when we learn Megillat Ruth, the laws of the gifts to the poor. The gifts to the poor were such that the owner of the land, the owner of the field, was not allowed to collect it. If they forgot a bundle, they were not allowed to, I forgot the bundle, let me go, take this bundle and give it to the Kohen. No, you have to leave it in the field. If something fell, lick it, the staff that would fail and they would have to go pick it up, one at a time, two at a time. So, the owner was not allowed to get close to it. So, the interaction with the Kohanim was such that by design, there was not much respect there, unfortunately.
It was mercenary.
The respect came when they came to Yerushalayim. Then this is the Kohanim's, home court, and they had a home court advantage, and they therefore were treated in a much different way. Okay. Then, but that caused the Kohanim some sort of a reaction against what happened when the people came. There are two types of korbanot in general, two types of sacrifices. There are ones that go only to God, usually olah, that they go totally being consumed on the altar, and there are those who are the actual animal is being divided, some to the person who brings them, some to God, and some to the Kohen. There were also baked goods. Okay, korbanot mincha. Those are baked goods, all kinds. Bagels are It's a Jewish food from way back when.
Zadis, right?
There you go, Zadis, exactly. So the baked goods, korbanot mincha, also were, they would bring a certain amount of flour, and then they would make from the flour, there were 4 or 5 different types of baked goods, none with chocolate, unfortunately. And then they would take a piece with their hands, as much as they can hold in one fist, and that part will be burned on the altar. But the rest of it, which was a lot, would be eaten by the Kohanim. Now, there is a very specific instruction in the description of korbanot mincha, of the baked goods that were brought as a mincha to God. It says over there that after you take my piece, God is saying, after you take the portion for me and burn it on the altar, on the fire, then you share. Then also the Kohanim will share, which implies very much that you cannot take it before. You cannot go and say, you know what, there's a lot here, that no fist is going to hold all of that, and so let me just take a bite before. No, not allowed. So that is in mincha. The rabbis taught us that the same rule applies also to korban shlamim, to what we're talking about here. Korban shlamim is when someone comes in and there is a piece of it that's being eaten. Usually in the holidays they would bring it, and they would korban chagiga is korban shlamim, a party offering, a celebration offering, and the family would eat some, and the Kohanim would eat some, and God would get first. All right. So what happened with the Kohanim? So the Kohanim felt that very very unhappy, not respected enough by the people. So what they did is, when the people came to the Bet HaMikdash with their shlamim, they came to request, to demand more of the food, more of the meat, more of the flesh of the sacrifice, more than that's coming to them. Coming to them just one thigh and one breast. And the rest would go, part of it will go to God, and a small part of it will go to God, and the rest will go to the family. They would come to where the family, to the cookout, to the tailgate party, and they would come with a big fork, 3-pronged fork, and trident, and they would take from the, I'll take whatever I can take with this, and that's mine. It's extra that's not coming to them. Now, it's not coming to them by law. It's not like they did something terrible by the letter of the law. But there is a saying in Israel, that it's kosher, but it stinks. It might be kosher, it might be legally kosher, but boy, it stinks. It didn't make any sense. It was, and what stank to high heaven is people resented it. People resented it, and they resented the Kohanim, not only the Kohanim, this individual guy that came with the fork, they resented the whole institution. And I'm coming here, what I learn at home is that if I bring a cow, so, 20% goes to God, and 30% goes to the Kohen, and the rest is going to me and my family. And suddenly comes this young Kohen that would send the kids. They wouldn't even come themselves, the older Kohanim, they would send the kids. And this is when the kids, Chofni Pinchas, the youngsters, the Eli youngsters, would come, and they would just grab more. Now, so that's where we stopped. That's where we stopped before. And they would do it to everybody. Now, they would come. Imagine you have different levels of people. People are bringing different levels of korbanot. Some bring a big ox, some bring a little small lamb, and everything in between. Okay? And what happened was that they would use the same fork for everybody. So
they, meaning
the Kohanim who would grab the extra food, the extra meat, would use the same. So they didn't take percentages. Say, you know what? let's just, an extra surcharge, gas surcharge of an extra 5%. No, just let me come with my fork and I'll stick it in your pot, no matter what size pot it is, and I'll take whatever I can take. So most of the people were not rich, and most of the people brought lamb, brought smaller animals. So you come with a big fork, you take way more percentage than if you come to, a rich man's ox, Anyway, so people got really upset with that. And then, so that's where we stopped last time. So now, גם בטרם יקטירון את החלב. Now, then it became even more brazen and more ridiculous and more disgusting in a way. גם בטרם יקטירון, it's שמואל I, chapter 2, פסוק ט"ו, 15. גם בטרם יקטירון את החלב, ובא נער הכהן ואמר לאיש הזובח, תנה בשר לצלות לכהן, ולא ייקח ממך בשר מבושל כי אם חי. ולא ייקח ממך בשר מבושל כי אם חי. So what were they saying? Even before the portion that belongs to the altar, that belongs to God, was consumed on the fire, at that point, for sure you're not allowed to... Right. You're not allowed... Ubana, so the kid, the Kohen, the teenager Kohen came, and they told to the person who is bringing the sacrifice, give it to me now. Give it to me. Give it to me because I don't like the way you cook it. I wanna roast it. I want it with the jalapenos, whatever. My grandma's recipe. I want to eat it the way I want to eat it, when I want to eat it, and I'm not going to just wait and sit and wait here for you to cook it. I want it live, raw meat. So the people would tell him, and they would add, before they even heard the answer, and they would, and if you're not going to give it to me, I'm just going to take it from you. Because I'm the boss here, I'm not gonna wait for your answer, and I'm not gonna eat. Not gonna take cooked meat. I want to take it raw. So the person, any person who they bumped into, they are they were not treating the Bet HaMikdash as if their backyard. It was a holy place. They came all trembling because they were coming to bring a special sacrifice that they might have collected, from their, I don't want to say piggy, but they collected pennies in order to buy that animal and to bring it, and they brought the entire family. And in those days,
it was a sacrifice.
It was a sacrifice, a literal sacrifice. In those days,
we have people in our community who do
exactly. Yeah, you have. In some, nowadays you can take low-cost airline and you go across wherever, the land very, very quickly. In those days, it took a couple of weeks to go and to walk. Oleh laregel means that they walked there. So they walked over there, and then they come here, and they're very excited. It's very, very nice setup in a building, and half a building, and here you have the shmegegi come to you and steal your meat behind you and treat you like garbage and treats the place as if it's his own exchange. It's a place for him to make a living. This is you came to my restaurant.
It's not a Bet HaMikdash.
Yeah, exactly. It's not Bet HaMikdash. It became his sustenance. So the person will say, listen, wait. There are laws, the laws of the kodashim, of the sacrifices, that you have to do the sacrifices on the same day. You have to bring it to the altar on the same day that you kill shech the behemoth, right? After the animal was killed, was shecht, right? It was processed. The blood was collected, and the pieces, the special fats that were taken off, and the animal would burn on the altar. But they're not allowed to keep it for the next day, or there are different limitations. But you're not allowed to keep it for the next day. You have to really finish it that day. So the person tells the Kohanim, come on, it's not like you have to wait till next week or even tomorrow. It's going to happen today. It says kayom, like around today, they say, because you have to start it today. That's the law. You can start it today and then it can burn all night, because sometimes if you bring a big ox, to the altar, it's not. It wasn't simple. It wasn't consumed very quickly, but so he was trying to push to hold back the Kohanim and say, listen, I'm waiting with my family until you finish your job, until you finish the shchita and the whole thing, So just respect that. And the guy said no, and because then, and the people were even generous, and they say, you know what? After you finish the work that you need to do with the sacrifice, come eat with us, no problem. We're all happy, one happy family. Machnise orchim. Why not? He says, "V'kach lecha kasher taveh nafshecha." Just wait until the right time and take as much as you want. V'amar lo, no, I'm not going to do this. Ki ata titen, I want it now. I want it now. There's this song I want it now. V'im lo, lakachti bechozka. And if you're not going to give it to me, I'm just going to take it with my hand, not going to ask any questions. This is terrible. This is disgusting, and this is the reason, one of two reasons why the temple, the Mishkan in Shiloh was destroyed. Can you imagine? People, they made it their own business. Thought
it was the vanity.
They thought, right. ותהי חטאת הנערים גדולה מאוד. So the sin of the kids was very, very, very big. Et pnei Hashem. It was, why? Because they basically desecrated the name of God. God put them as the messenger of, there are two Kohanim here today. My gosh. Just the...
And we're thinking about 1/17 lamb chops.
Right, there you go. So...
hand over the tea.
Hand over the tea, right? You got the cake. You got the cake. No, give me the tea. I got the cake.
It's interesting. Why is lakachti in the past tense?
Where lakachti?
Ki ata titen v'im lo lakachti.
I took already. It's consider that I took it already. Don't it's you like kiss it goodbye. It's already not yours.
So it's just idiomatic. It's not to imply that it already happened.
No. Okay. Yeah. So the sin of the kids was very, very big. They cursed, basically. The people caused other people to curse. The Kohanim caused other people to curse this whole mincha, this whole gift to Hashem. So people came, I want to give gift to God. By the end of the evening, just leave me out of it. I want to go home. That kind of thing. Let me just see something. Okay. All right. Now, just like in a good movie, where you have a scene shown of the villain doing his thing, preparing the crime or whatever, and then after 5 minutes of that, you zoom out and you zoom in to the good guy, to Shmuel. So this is how it's written, because it doesn't belong here otherwise. So now we're zooming into Shmuel. Now, let's just consider one thing. Moshe wrote the 5 books, right? And he wrote them, the first 4 books he wrote from the words of God. He was just a scribe, God told him. The 4th one he wrote from his own mind, God put the words into his head, but it was more from him. He put more of himself there. Shmuel wrote all of it from himself. Now, if we analyze the Torah, there are a lot of places where God is praising Moshe. You know, Moshe, the Ish, Anav, and this and that. You know, it's Shimu Beko. It's there are many.
She'en Kamohu.
She'en Kamohu. Yeah, many places that it's written about Moshe, not as if Moshe is writing about himself, but as if someone else is writing, because God is writing it. As Moshe just happens to be the hand with the pen. It's a sofer, right? But God was saying it. Now Shmuel mimicked this type of style of writing. So he also wrote about himself. It's written Beruach HaKodesh. It's written also with the words of God putting it, but much toned down. Shmuel did not write about all of his greatness. That came with the later rabbis who attested to the fact that he was so great. So here is basically all that's here, and a couple of other psukim. It's all that's written about Shmuel.
His greatness.
About Shmuel's greatness. So Shmuel mesharet et pnei Hashem. Shmuel is the servant of the face of God. Of God. Now the same language, the face of God, right, is being used in the previous verse against those kids, the Kohanim.
Right, lahavdil.
The Kohanim, in contrast to the Kohanim, who kept God with an egg on his face, just kept him embarrassed, so to speak. Shmuel was serving the face of God. He was really doing the exact opposite. This also is serving as a justification for Eli to later on sort of leave the reign or resigning to the fact that the reign is going to go to Shmuel after him. Now, Eli was a great man. He was one of the very special ones, and he knew everything that's going on. But he was also a father. He was also the father of those two, tachshitim, two guys who were not acting right. But he knew what they, he saw what they're doing. He heard what they're doing. We'll see in a second. And he had, a good, warm corner in his heart for Shmuel, despite the fact that he's going to unseat them. Despite all of that, he's really the right guy. So he was okay with Shmuel all along. So this contrast was playing in front of Eli. So Shmuel Mesharet, he was the servant of God, and he was a kid. From the time that he was a kid, he was working with. He was born a year into Eli's reign, and he was brought into the Mishkan 3 years. On the 3rd year, after Eli was ruling for 3 years, Eli totally ruled for 40. So Eli was functioning with Shmuel for 37 years. So, but here we're talking about the early time, and he was a nar chagur efod bat. He was wearing special clothing, and let's elaborate on the special clothing. We know that the Kohen, there are 2 types of Kohanim, right? There is a simple Kohen, a regular Kohen, and there is a Kohen Gadol. You guys fight it out, who's who, okay? Not tall, Gadol. More like, more wide than tall.
Charlie wins.
So the point is that how do you differentiate between the 2 Kohanim? By the way, their uniform. The uniform of a regular Kohen had 4 pieces of clothing: pants, shirt,
and tunic,
a me'il, it's a coat, and a hat, and it's nefet. All right. Now, a high priest had 4 more. Had the tzitz, something here on the forehead, has the breastplate, had the piece that's under the breastplate, the ephod, the choshen, and it had the ephod. What is the ephod? So there is a disagreement exactly what it is. According to Rashi, the ephod is a turnaround type of an apron. It's an apron that you wear on the back. It went from the top all the way to the bottom of the floor, to almost touching, and that was an apron. That's called ephod. Now, according to some, the ephod went all around. In any event, this type of a uniform was worn by special people, by servants of God. So,
I thought only during Shahot.
what? So during that's correct. The high priest would wear his 8 pieces of clothing. The regular Kohen would wear their clothes only during the time that they are serving God. This is not the same ephod as the high priest, because only the high priest is allowed to wear that. And that ephod is made in a special way, woven in a special way with.
It's also bad.
What?
They're both bad.
Pod?
Bad.
But
Right. Both linen.
but it's woven in a special
Okay.
way.
Also, it's the weave that's
It's
different.
the way, and so because otherwise you're not allowed to wear. Shmuel was not a Kohen; he was a Levi. He's not allowed to wear the clothing of the high priest just like that, because he thinks that he's not allowed. It's actually
Cross-dressing.
if someone who is not a high priest wears them, it's a death penalty. So it's really serious, So this was not that kind, but it was now today you would call he was wearing a part, he was wearing a special suit, something that signifies that he was special, that he was serving God. So some of the Levim would wear that, some of the important people, the leaders of the people will wear that, but he was wearing it as a kid. He felt so connected and so dedicated and so giving of himself that he wore this special type of clothing from youth.
I thought it was a Nazir.
Yes, he was a Nazir.
Right.
So he wore that, and again, when someone wears a certain clothing, they try to fit the costume. They try to act it. So where the other Kohanim who would do the opposite of spreading respect, Shmuel would spread respect from youth all the time as he was walking around with an ephod. His mind was dedicated to God all the time, 24/7, 365, the whole day, the whole time. Now, here's another thing, very cute. Umeil katan ta'aseh lo imo, meil katon ta'aseh lo imo. His mother, she had him when she was 130 years of age. A big miracle, even then. And so she apparently passed away shortly after, a few years after. She had several other children. She had 5 children in total. She gave birth to 5 children, so she needed to be around for a few years, but not too many. So, but as long as Shmuel was young, she would make a small little coat for him, and she would sew it herself. Yeah, she didn't just go to an Amazon and got it. And she brought it to him miyamim yemima, from time to time. What is from time to time? Typically, people, the rest of the crowd, would come during the 3 holidays, the Shalosh Regalim, right? Sukkot, Shavuot, and Pesach. Elkanah, the father of Shmuel, he would come extra times. Why? Again, because after after we were in the desert for 40 years, and we were, holy people, learned Torah the whole time, we came in reality, we made Aliyah, and reality hit us. We have to work the land. You have to do stuff. And so people became very dedicated to their property, and it was very hard for them to leave for 2 weeks to go to imagine Sukkot, 2 weeks to go to, a week to be there, and 2 weeks to come back. It's more than a month. It's a lot of time to take off work, and people just didn't come. 3 times a year, exactly. Now, so what happened was with Elkanah, he was a very important force, a very important driver to bring people. He knew the importance of coming to serve, to visit God, and he would come more times than just the 3 times. And as we mentioned previously, he would form caravans and would go each time from a different town in order to get the people to...
a rabble-rousing.
Yes, exactly, to get the people. Now, what happened? So he would bring people. He was very successful. So he would bring the crowds. When they came with him with a caravan, they would meet his son, who was very dedicated over there to the cause. And then they would bring their sacrifices, and reality will hit them between the eyes when the Kohanim would come with the fork and ask, give me the money, show me the money. I want the meat now. Right. So that was the contrast, the tremendous contrast that was, the experience. So his mother would come from time to time, not necessarily in the holiday, and when she comes, she would bring him another, I guess, little bigger coat each time as he grew. Now, he was born early. He was born after the 6 months of pregnancy, so he was not a very strong man all along. That's why his mother held him back for 2 years till she brought him to Mikdsh to begin with. He wasn't a strong man physically. But she came. When her husband came with her, so when the husband came, he made sure to bring his entire family. It's not that he said, okay, honey, I'm going now to Mikdsh for another trip. No, all of us. So the wives, he had 2, and the servants and the kids, everybody would come to celebrate together.
Represents an enormous expense.
An enormous expense, enormous time investment. But, so that's when she came. And then, because he was so dedicated, and because the prayer of Hannah, which we learned about earlier, uverach Eli et Elkanah ve'et ishto. So Eli, the high priest, gave a blessing, a special blessing to Elkanah and his wife. Ve'amar, and he told them, Yasem Hashem lecha zera min ha'isha azot, that God is going to give you, kids, seeds from this woman. He was talking to Elkanah again in appreciation of 2 things. Number one, what Elkanah was doing to the whole movement of Aliyah Laregel, and the fact that תחת השאלה אשר שאל השם והלכו למכור, and in exchange for the vow that they made, both Elkanah and the vow, Hannah made the vow to bring Shmuel. She'ela, right? She'ela, that's the vow. That's they gave a loan. The loan, She'ela is also a loan. Okay. So they provided a loan. They loaned Shmuel to God. Now, you can't really loan the person. The person has to agree to it, which he did. A woman also cannot just loan the child without asking the husband, So it's so it was a joint decision. She came up with the idea, but Elkanah was supporting her 100%, and therefore they received this tremendous blessing from Eli. And then after all of that, Elkanah, this is the second time that we mentioned that Elkanah went back home, because he did have a home, he did have a place, he had children to look after, he had property to look after, he had a mission. He was one of the, they said that he was one of the prophets, like the minor prophets that are not really considered among our prophets, but he knew how to do it. So he was an important person. And so he couldn't stick around. And then it says, Ki pakad Hashem et Chana. So after Eli blessed her, so God gave her the ability to conceive. Now, very interestingly, there are 3 women that couldn't have children that were conceived on Rosh Hashanah. Sarah, Hannah, and Rachel.
Right.
And Rachel. All 3 of them were conceived on, and all 3 of them are we mentioning during the Torah, right? We say Hashem pakat et Sarah. We're reading about Sarah. Right. We're reading Tfilat Hannah, and we're reading Rachel me'ana mevaka al banea. We're reading the Haftarah about, we're mentioning Rachel in the second day Haftarah of second day Rosh Hashanah Haftarah. So we're mentioning all 3 women because this is when it happened, and what it does to us, it gives us the ability to know that God answers. If we just do the right thing, if we just pray like we should, on Rosh Hashanah, God answers.
Also means the Imahot really celebrated on Yom Tov.
Exactly. Rosh Hashanah was a very, very big
really
celebration for exactly. So God allowed Chana to be conceived. Vatar ותלת 3 בנים ו2 בנות ויגדל הנער שמואל עם השם. So she gave birth to 3 boys and 2 girls. One of the 3 boys is Shmuel. We don't really know anything about the others. And Shmuel was growing up with God. He was basically, can you imagine that the Tanakh is giving testimony that Shmuel grew up with God. It was something special. It's not being told about anybody else that he grew up with God. It's anyway. So just one more pasuk, I guess, and then we'll conclude for the day. Ve'eli zaken meod. Now Eli was, when he died, he was 98 years of age. So he was legitimately old. However, it's mentioned here because his kids made him older. The way the kids, that's what the
I had hair before I had
way, exactly. The way the kids were acting really made him age much faster. V'shamai et kol asher ya'asun banav, and he heard everything that his kids were doing. And here is a surprise. Before we gave a whole description of what they did wrong, that they basically were grabbing meat from the sacrifices and trying to and desecrating the name of God. Here there was already a new rumor that they are sleeping around with women in Bet HaMikdash. This is, I think it's time. So we're going to continue next time with more details.
The way he uses the phrase "lechol Yisrael."
Yeah.
That's why it wasn't localized.
Yeah. Well, it's not. The truth is that it's not really wasn't. The prevailing opinion is that they didn't really do that. It was just a rumor, or they caused it. But whatever. We'll talk about it next time.